Ooh. That was different.
It was.
The intro music was different. It counted 1, 2, 3, 4.
Interesting.
And we typically go 3, 2, 1. Right?
How did it change?
Something spooky going on here.
Is that the application music? Where are we? Welcome to the Coaching
That's right.
Lifestyle Podcast.
We'll just do it this way. Yeah. Welcome to the Coaching Life Pod. I was supposed to open this, wasn't I?
That's all right.
Today.
We got caught off guard.
Here I am. My name's Chris Stewart. Here with my good buddy, Coach Martin.
Very good. Thank you. Appreciate it.
That's right. We're here on a Wednesday.
At the pod.
At the pod. It sounds like we just happened to begin our podcast as a class of 300 is letting out of the lecture hall there just outside of our studio doors.
Yeah.
So our timing is fantastic. We'll probably get a few texts here in just a minute.
No, there's no doubt. I actually just received a text from my wife.
Is that right?
Yes.
Hey, look here though. We're not using my phone today to record.
Oh, that's right.
So you can text all you want. We're not even going to, I'm just going to put my phone back here. You're not even going to hear it. You're not going to see it.
So Coach Huffman, back off.
Go for it.
You're not going to distract me anymore.
No distractions today.
Now, my wife sent me a text that said, don't talk bad about me today on your podcast.
So she listened. Or somebody else told her.
I told her.
That's good.
Told her.
That's a good man.
Here's a goal of mine today, too. I'm not going to touch the mic.
That's tough.
Yeah, I'm not going to touch it.
Well, I mean, I'm always leaning forward and backing up and everything else.
I'm not going to touch it. I'm going to eliminate it.
Have I told you before that I got in trouble in elementary school for falling out of my chair? I think I just mentioned that a couple times. Yeah. So
that was the problem.
I'm at least staying in this chair.
We had a kid like that in 7th grade. You know, Coach Bob Ashley.
Yeah.
Coach Bob Ashley is my physical education teacher in the 7th grade, and he.
You're talking about Bob Senior?
Yes.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, and he nicknamed one of my classmates Worms.
He had Coach Ashley was good with nicknames. Some of them we can't say here on the air. Not in this day and age.
No, so. I just want you to know, Coach, and everyone out there, all you people worried about my health and my well-being. I sat down Thursday evening beside my father-in-law, and I said, Jeff, you tell me, where do Jake and Jeremiah get their size?
And I'll bet he did not say chastity.
And you would lose that bet.
He did. See, the right answer is my side of the family, Patrick. My side of the family.
That was inferred.
Okay.
Christopher.
Well, I'm glad that your wife got the inference. You're lucky that she got the inference.
Yes. Yeah. Well, she knows my language.
Is that what it is?
She's been around me for a little while, so she's familiar with the way that I say things in ways that
you have
probably
a way
sound
of saying
dumb
some
to other people.
No.
Yeah.
You have you got the Middleport and Meigs County dialect like a lot of us do.
Calm as a cucumber.
Calm as a cucumber. Yeah. I was made fun of a little bit after just living in St. Louis for 6 years because people said that I picked up some of the ways that people spoke from out there.
What's an example of that?
The difference in how you say your O's. Like here in Appalachia, it's O.
Okay.
Like, I don't know. What's a word that has a letter O in it?
Ohio,
right? Out there, it's Ohio. Oh, I can't even do it anymore.
You roll
Ohio,
it.
yeah.
Ohio.
Well, and there are certain words as well. Like they never say pop.
Soda.
Everything is soda in soda. It's soda. There's the O. Soda.
Yeah. Gotcha.
And it was funny because April and I when we first moved out there, we were like, "What kind of pop do you guys want?" and they're not used to hearing that, and they're like, "Say it again." Like, what kind of pop should we pick up? Like, you picking up my dad? What?
Where's the place that everyone calls it a Coke? It's not pop. It's soda.
That's the
Coke.
Chicago area, I believe.
Okay.
Like, what kind of Coke do you want?
Yes.
You want a Pepsi Coke or a Mountain Dew Coke or a
Coke?
That's bizarre. Yeah.
They order Cokes. Give me a Coke.
The big one for
Coca-Cola.
us out there was they had never even, when I say they, I'm talking about April and I moved there because of I was a youth pastor at a church there, and that was our primary job. We moved out there to work in ministry, and so the kids in our youth ministry and the adults that volunteered and worked with us, these are the people I was talking to, and we would do things like have after. Like what do you call it? Friday night? What do they call it? Fifth quarter parties, things like that.
Yeah.
Like, hey, get some pop, and April make some hot dog sauce, and they were all confused because they're like, hot dog what?
Chili.
Yeah, and I said hot dog sauce, and they're like, you like the sauces you put like ketchup and mustard, stuff like that, relish. I said no, sauce, and they're like, what kind of sauce? And we're like, I don't know. It's got like hamburger meat in it. Oh, chili dog. And I said, well, yeah, I guess that's what you call it. Well, I didn't realize, I didn't get the whole connection, the whole disconnect of they were not thinking about the kind of hot dog sauce that we believe is hot dog sauce here in southeastern Ohio, or I don't know, probably this whole side of the world. I'd say now everything's global now. I mean, everything, like.
No, I don't know.
Things have probably made their way out there by now.
Maybe.
I know this. We brought it to St. Louis.
People might be more
If hot
aware.
dog sauce is a thing in St. Louis, you can credit Chris and April Stewart for bringing it out there. Because I drove through Dairy Queen, a national chain, right? I drove through Dairy Queen one time and ordered a hot dog with sauce, and they had no idea what I was talking about. Like, sir, what kind of sauce? And then I remembered, oh yeah, they don't call it sauce. I said chili dog. And they're like, oh, okay. And so I get my hot dog, and it's in a boat, and I open it up, and it's just literally chili poured on top of my dog.
Yeah.
Like not the hot dog sauce like you and I are used to, where you could actually pick it up and eat it with your hands. There was no picking this up.
It was just poured all over.
It was doused. It was covered in chili.
So what did they call it?
And so I said, so is this how you guys eat a chili dog? They're like, yeah, we don't eat them like that very often because it's messy. Got to use a fork and a knife.
So how do you
I said,
normally
so you
eat
don't have hot dog sauce? And we're like, well, it runs all over you if you get the chili sauce on it. I said, no, hot dog sauce. And they were like, we don't know what you're talking about. And so April, for a Super Bowl party or something, made a crock pot full of hot dog sauce. It had the sugar in it, the brown sugar in it, the hot dog sauce like we're used to.
Yeah, boy.
And they loaded up their hot dogs, and they went, this is the best hot dog I've ever had in my life. Like they
don't
never,
eat. Oh, I didn't realize that.
They didn't have hot dog sauce in 1998, 6, 7, the years that we were out there, in the same way that we had hot dog sauce growing up here.
Interesting.
Like McClure's or Larry's or the shake shops that we know of around here. It was just foreign.
You want to know my favorite hot dog sauce?
Yeah.
Actually, I don't even know the name of it, but I would just say the kind that comes in a can. I love that stuff, man. It's my favorite.
It has a distinct taste. That's more like chili.
Yeah, really
Yeah.
it is. It is.
You could get Tony Paco's hot dog sauce in a can. Tony Paco's is really popular up in the Toledo area.
Man, I'm gonna have to get a hot dog after we.
I know, man. We're talking about this, and McClure's hot dog sauce is some of the best.
It is.
Yeah, it's a local joint here
Really good.
down in Meigs County, and Gallia County has one as well. And yeah, hot dog sauce. Now they had something that we didn't have anywhere else in our world. Like they turned the tables on me, and they said something that I had never heard of when I lived in St. Louis, and they said, you got to try our toasted ravioli. I said, what? Ravioli isn't toasted. They're like, oh yeah. They're like, it's a St. Louis thing. Bread it, throw it in the deep fryer, and eat ravioli like that, and just basically dip it in marinara sauce. It was good.
Really?
And it's made its way. Like I've seen toasted ravioli in freezer bags.
I'm not a
in
big ravioli
Kroger.
guy.
Yeah, I don't eat a ton of ravioli, but I mean, toasted ravioli is a St. Louis thing, and it was good stuff. And you know what else is a St. Louis thing? The Panera Bread Company
Really?
originated as the St. Louis Bread Company.
Oh, I'll be there. They changed it to Panera for marketing.
Yeah, and I think if you still go, I don't know, I could be wrong about this. I haven't been to St. Louis in a few years, but if you go to like a Panera in St. Louis, like you find an original St. Louis bread company. It looks just like Panera, but
it's
no,
called-
it
it's
became
still
a
called
national
St. Louis.
chain, and they turned it to Panera, or somebody else bought it or something. But the exact thing that we know as Panera we had in St. Louis in the 90s. It was called St. Louis Bread Company. Yeah, just a local place. Yeah, exact same food, same menu.
I've been eating at Panera for a while. I like Panera.
Yeah, you spend $16 and you go out and you're still hungry afterwards, but it's good food.
Really? You think so? Like
I don't get filled up there.
Maybe I
got to spend a lot of money.
Maybe
to
I
get filled
spend
up there.
more.
Well, maybe that's the thing. Yeah. Do you get a lot? Do you get the half sandwich and
Yes.
half soup?
Yeah.
I get if I'm going to do a half and half. I'm like, just give me the whole sandwich and I'll take a soup also. And you spend $20 on something like that.
Yeah, maybe. It's not really that expensive anymore. I mean,
Well, when you consider what we're paying for everything now,
we went to Chick-fil-A.
it would have been nice to hear somebody last night on that debate say that they had an answer for that, wouldn't it? Neither one of them. We weren't going to go there.
Well, listen,
we weren't going to go into politics.
What they didn't answer questions.
No, they didn't.
They just badged each other. Like
What I tell you?
it's basically, yeah.
I took a shower before sitting down to watch it. And my wife went to bed. She's like, I can't believe you want to watch this. I mean, it's not that like we're not informed on politics. It's just we know what it's going to be.
Yeah.
And she was exactly right.
Yeah.
I felt like I needed another shower after it was over because I just felt like I sat and watched for an hour and a half 2 junior high kids in a lunchroom arguing with each other.
Did you watch it for an hour and a half?
I watched every bit of it. Yeah.
That's a question. I don't know how you.
I don't know why either. I really don't know why. It's sad, Pat.
You and
it's,
I did.
It's sad that these are the top two people that we put forth as the candidates to potentially lead our country. It's just really sad, I think.
Yeah.
Because you can't even answer a question without pointing a finger over there. Like if I was sitting across from somebody that I hated, and I don't have people that I hate, somebody that I don't respect, and we're debating on issues, I would hope and think that I could answer a question without involving the person over there. Like actually answer a question directed at me.
Yeah.
Without saying how bad of a person you are.
Yeah. Well,
that's what we've devolved into.
yeah, and I would say it's a society thing. I think that's what sells, and I feel like those candidates believe that the more zingers that they have, the better they're going to do in the polls, and that's unfortunately
They may be right.
Probably true.
Unfortunately, it's probably true.
It's kind of like been actually a few conversations over the last few days talking about, in my perspective, the difference in the way you have to coach kids now is the way you had to coach them 30 years ago. And it's kind of like, a negative form of finding a new way to make things work and from a political perspective, I think.
Yeah.
The old style might not be as effective as this new style that everyone's relying on, and I don't know. I think I had a conversation earlier today, and one of the important things is that we have a lot of people that go to the polls and are prepping up to vote for the presidential election right now, that they show up at the polls and they don't know much about any of the other races, and
right.
I think that's a big mistake because I think those races. Honestly, I would say this. I'm sure people could debate.
You're
this
talking
with me.
about the other offices that are being run for.
Yes.
Yeah. When you say races.
Yeah. Local.
We're not talking about human beings.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Local, state.
Yeah.
Even some different roles at the federal level. Those are going to impact us more than the presidency.
On local levels,
People
for
might
sure.
not like to hear that. Like, there's probably people, you can't, because you have all this sensationalism that says, well, if Donald Trump gets reelected, then the world's going to end 2 years in. If the Antichrist, Kamala Harris gets elected, then no one's going to have guns, and the government's going to we're going to become a dictatorship like Germany. But we don't focus on the smaller things that could impact us every day. I think that's a mistake, but I think it's by design too. I think that's what there's a control mechanism there. And so, but anyways, who wants to talk about that crap?
Well, here's the thing that's sad. This is the saddest thing to me about that debate which occurred on September 10th of 2024. And that is that you and I are recording today on September 11th. of 2024.
Yep.
23 years after the worst tragedy on our own soil in this country took place. And I opened up social media this morning to, reminisce, not necessarily reminisce, but that's a terrible word for it, but to remember.
Yeah.
And I couldn't find, nothing showed up.
That
mean,
is unfortunate.
Eventually.
Because it was all about the debate.
All about the stupid debate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is unfortunate.
And that's really what it was. It was a stupid debate. It wasn't a good debate.
Well, I'm glad I missed it.
Yeah. You didn't miss anything.
I think, using the word reminisce, I think there's a lot of value left in what happened on, not necessarily on, what
reminisce on the after,
Sure.
what our people as a country and bipartisan
not just that,
people did.
But the immediate reaction, I have something I want to read. It's a good time to read it. So, on the morning of September 11th, 2001, New York Fire Department Chief Joseph Pfeiffer was on a routine call in Lower Manhattan. Hearing the loud roar of an airplane overhead, Pfeiffer looked up to see hijacked Flight 11 crashing into the North Tower. Immediately, he sprang into action, becoming the first chief to arrive at the World Trade Center. He responded with members of Engine 7 and Ladder 1 and implemented a command center in the North Tower's lobby. At one point during that morning, Pfeiffer saw his brother, Lieutenant Kevin Pfeiffer of Engine 33. The two shared a glance and a few words before Kevin headed up into the North Tower. Pfeiffer stayed in the North Tower lobby to assist with the rescue operation, evacuating shortly before the building collapsed at 10:28 a.m. Pfeiffer would eventually discover that Kevin had been unable to escape the North Tower in time and had been killed. He later learned that Kevin spent his final moments helping other firefighters evacuate the building, which in turn delayed his own escape. And this brings us back to what using the word reminiscing. For Pfeiffer, the legacy of 9/11 is not the sorrow or the tragedy, but the sacrifice and the bravery that was shown through many people's efforts that morning. So, through this horrible event, tragedy, where we were brought these many stories of heroism, and of people, risking their life. Some people were fortunate enough to risk their life and survive, and then obviously some risked and sacrificed their life. So there's a lot of great things that came out of that tragedy. So to say we look back, I think that's what we want to look back and say we uncovered a lot of the good, for all the evil, for all the bad, and all the things that we deal with in the world today. When tragedy like that hits, and specifically on September 11th, we found a whole lot of good.
Yeah, we had some good moments in the days to come after that.
Sure, we did.
And
Absolutely.
it's I hesitate even saying it like that. It's an irony to say that we had good moments, right?
Yeah.
But that's what resilient people do, is they look at tragedy, unavoidable. It's unavoidable. I can't, this has happened. I can't stop it now. So how do I respond? And we responded, we could get into the global aspects of it as well. But you and I are talking about the ground level aspects of it, the people, right? And it was some of the ways that people responded was amazing. It really was.
Yeah.
You saw, even if it was short lived, you saw a country that was one, like ONE, one. I always go to the baseball game 3 of the World Series when President Bush at the time was invited to come and throw out the first pitch, and he steps out there, and in the stadium of, I don't know how many seats are in the Yankee Stadium, 60,000 maybe, 40, something like that.
75. It's big.
Everybody on their feet cheering, Democrats, Republicans, Independents,
Yeah, those labels, and they're lost.
They were completely lost. I mean, it was loud. I watched the video this morning. It was loud. He stands up, he comes out there. He's got a baseball in his hand. It's just him and the catcher. Nobody else out there. Wasn't 1,000 cameras out there, And camera pans in from far back, and he's got that big jacket on. I mean, it's cool. It's October, but he's also got a Kevlar vest on underneath there as well, and just fires a friggin' strike right down the middle. I mean, it just gives me chills to see it, because it could have gone a lot of different ways. I mean, those first pitches are bad sometimes, aren't they? Yeah. And it was like, man, God just went, I'm taking that ball and putting it right in the mitt, and it was a cool moment. Like it was what we needed in that very moment. Like we needed baseball back. And not only did we need baseball back, we needed the guy that we have elected as our leader. Like him or don't like him, we elected him as our leader, and that's been my attitude with every president that we've elected. I not all the ones that I've voted for have gotten elected, and I don't, or nor have all the ones that we've elected have I respected. However, I live here, and that's my president. Yeah. Like you're never going to hear me say "not my president." It's just we've lost that ability to do that. Many people have. So like him or not like him, we needed him to be able to give us something to feel good about. To be strong. We're okay. You're in good hands here. I'm throwing a strike, and it's it's all symbolism, of course. Right. There's nothing about baseball that that fixed the problem, but. Yeah, for those few hours it did.
Yeah. Well, I think that, and I guess we kind of got a refresher of that when COVID took away our sports.
Yeah.
And, for a moment of time we didn't have them. Then when they came back, it was such a breath of fresh air. And I think that, from a sports perspective, the games were shut down for a few days. I feel like the games were postponed.
Everything
NASCAR
was shut down for
NASCAR
a few days.
didn't run.
There wasn't a plane in the sky.
Yeah. And, but that getting that, returning to sports and that feeling and that just the comfort or, the peace that
this is normal to us. Like baseball game is normal, and we need normal. And
right.
That same thing happened with COVID.
Yeah,
this is it wasn't normal to be playing baseball with nobody in the stands or cardboard cutouts. How dumb that was. I still see some of those highlights, and it's so weird to be watching an empty stadium.
Yeah, didn't they funnel crowd noise in?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought they did that.
Yeah.
I thought they did, and then you could pay.
Football games were terrible. I mean, it was like. Obvious they were trying to find ways to make the crowds respond in ways of what was happening. And
I remember.
That was bizarre. It was bizarre.
Probably tried to block that out as I do most Brown seasons. I guess we forgot to mention that.
What's that? I wasn't going to bring it up, Pat.
The travesty.
But since you bring it up.
The travesty that happened
since you have brought it up, it's a good ball game.
I would disagree with that assessment. Yeah, for sure.
We're of course talking about the Dallas Cowboys and the Cleveland Browns from this past Sunday.
Who's your backup?
Backup quarterback or team?
Quarterback. Yeah, right. I know.
Cooper Rush.
Cooper Rush. What would you?
Would you like him?
Yeah. Would you?
You want to trade there?
You got any interest in trading him? Oh, I touched the mic.
Cooper actually has done a great job. When Dak was down a couple years ago or beginning of last year, Cooper's a good quarterback.
Yeah, he is. Yeah. Right.
Where were you when the planes hit the?
I started a job the week prior. This was my first week at General Mills, a company called General Mills in Wellston, Ohio.
I know.
As a maintenance as a maintenance person, so I was working at midnights this week, and I was just waking up.
Were you out of college?
Yes.
Fresh out of college?
Yes. Year or two, maybe.
Okay. Yeah.
Year. Yeah. I think I was when I first got out of college, I was a maintenance man.
You hadn't gotten into your
McDonald's.
IT world yet.
No. And then I was a cold caller for about a year.
Yeah, you probably won't forget that.
Never. It's the most difficult job I've ever had. But I paid for Chassie's engagement ring with that job. So there's a good that comes from all that. Yeah. And then I got this position at this factory that, you know, in the span of about 5 days, I think I washed 5 billion pizza rolls down this huge drain, and I couldn't eat pizza rolls for about 6 months after I quit the position, I moved on to another company. But anyways, I believe I was sleeping and just, you know, waking up from recovering from a midnight shift.
You did a night shift,
Yeah,
a third shift.
Yeah.
Or it had been a second shift.
No, it was, I think if I remember right, it was 11 to 7. So it was a third shift.
Oh, so you had just gotten home.
Yeah,
and you
I was
you
home
had just
and in
fallen
bed.
asleep.
Yeah.
For you, it was like evening, you know, nighttime. And
Yeah.
So did anybody wake you up? Were you by yourself?
I think my mom was home with me.
Yeah.
Because I still lived with my parents at the time. But she didn't, I don't really recall her coming in phased or anything like that, or, you know, telling me you got to turn the TV on or anything like that. I feel like the TV was on, and I woke up for whatever reason, and I noticed it, and then I
Gotcha.
didn't go back to sleep.
I mean, people were no one really kind of knew it was surreal, right? It was a disillusion. I mean, you're like, what exactly is happening here? Yeah. Like I see this, but is that really real?
Yeah.
And yeah,
it was odd. It was odd. I'm sure that's what people felt like when they're on the streets there.
Oh yeah.
And it was just a very odd situation to be in, an airplane or something. You know, it's like something just hit if they weren't looking up, they wouldn't have been able to tell. So, you know, something just hit the tower.
I mean, it's scary enough. It'll make you jump out of your shoes. It give you a weird feeling just to see an airplane up close, and you're ready for it. You know, like if you ever been someplace where airplanes land or take off, and they're close enough to like you can stand underneath them and watch them. There was always a place we went to in St. Louis, you know, where we could watch them come in, and I think there's a beach like that somewhere.
Yeah.
Panama maybe. Panama
There's
Beach.
somewhere that like they actually make you stay far enough back, or the
because
engines
it's
will like
so,
knock you over or something.
Yeah.
But
it's just.
But yeah, I agree. It's just a massive,
weird feeling.
It's really weird.
Yeah, and to be.
I guess if you're used to it, it's probably not as weird. But weird, you know.
Right. Well, in New York City, you're used to seeing planes, but they're obviously well above the buildings, and so to happen to glance up and see that's not right, and then see what happens, you know, it just, yeah. I was leading worship. We had just moved here.
Was this on a Sunday?
No, it was for a retreat.
Ah, okay. Yeah,
I was doing a worship retreat for Good Works homeless ministry here in Athens.
Oh, be darned.
And Keith Wasserman invited me and a lady from my church to come and just, you know, be part of the retreat and lead their team in worship. They always did like a fall retreat for any of their new, you know, college students who worked for them, and then, you know, just all their employees, just to kind of get away and you know, look forward to the new season. And we were at a bed and breakfast actually, and had just gotten there, had breakfast, had a little worship time and a little session, and we were getting ready to play some more music, and Keith came down into the room and said, "Hey, I need to interrupt for a second, because somebody came and told him about what happened, and he went up and watched, and then he came back down and said, "Hey, I need to interrupt because I want to tell you what's something that's happening that's very significant right now, and we can decide how we want to proceed from that point." And by this time, it was mid morning, right? It was probably 9:30 or so. And,
What, was that when they first?
There was, because
Because I feel like maybe like how long, I don't know, remember how long it took the towers to fall.
we watched that live on TV.
There.
Yeah.
So are you thinking?
What we ended up doing, we didn't know what, like, okay, we're in the middle of worship and prayer, so we should pause and pray. But we also didn't know what we're praying for. Like, we didn't know what was happening. And so his recommendation was that we all come upstairs. Like, there's sort of a little downstairs area where we were meeting, and then upstairs where we were going to have brunch together. And it was already scheduled to be like 10:30 brunch or whatever. And it was kind of going to be in the middle of this retreat. And then we would go back and do some more sessions later, and then finish up in the late afternoon. And so we went upstairs, and we were just kind of sitting around in that brunch room and watching the one tower smoke, and then another one, and then the other plane came, and that happened live, and people were freaking out.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it was scary. So we started praying right there. Lord, we don't know what's going on, but we know we need to surrender to you right now. We know we need.
Because at the same time you're getting reports about the plane
Other ones,
over
yes,
Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
So we didn't know, is the country being attacked or
right?
What's really going on.
That was the exact feeling. How many are there? Where's the next one going to hit?
Yeah.
And it was chaos. And it didn't matter where you were. I mean, obviously the most chaos was taking place in New York City,
Sure.
at the Pentagon, and on those airplanes. But it was chaos everywhere because you just did not know. Brock was 2 years old. Kaylee was 1. Kaylee was at home with my parents. April was working at, I believe she was at that time at Alexander Elementary School. Maybe she might have been at the Ohio University Child Development Center. That's where she worked there first. And Brock was at home. Brock was actually at Growing Tree Preschool. And so the first thing I wanted to do was go be with my kids.
Yeah.
And so, and Keith and the whole Good Work staff realized also we're going to cut this retreat short because everybody needs to go be with your families.
Yeah.
And so we did. We ate brunch as we watched. We went ahead and ate the food that was prepared for us as we watched what was happening, and then we got in our vehicles and left. And it was a weird drive. Like my heart's pounding. I'm praying. It's like, God, I'm glad that I trust in you because. That can at least give me some peace here, but it's still scary.
Yeah, sure. Not knowing, the danger that your family's in, or what the future holds in the next 24 to 48 to weeks to months.
The future was undoubtedly in question, particularly for my family as well, in terms of where we were at the time in our lives, right? I mean, so April and I, the path that we took to get back here, when I say back, this is our home area. Athens is not our hometown, but it's just 30 minutes north of our hometown. We grew up where you live. And as we were praying about where God was going to send us, where we should live next with 2 young children, and we believed that he was kind of calling us back home to do ministry here, to get to get jobs here and to do ministry, to see what he would do with us here. And so we had just moved here, and what we did was we made the decision in December of 2000, and our decision was through our prayers. We went ahead and put our house. We had a house in the Toledo area, which is where we were living at the time. We put our house for sale in May. We made the decision by May, I guess. We felt, we first got the impression that we should move back near home in December, right around Christmas time. We had made the decision by May. And so we put our house for sale, thinking, okay, market is good up here. Where we lived was a really good market, a little town called Wauseon, just west of Toledo. A bunch of nice little towns there. The economy's good. And we had a member of our church who was a realtor, and she was, she helped us get the house, ready to go. And that's the whole reason we bought a house. Like, we knew we weren't going to live there long, but we were like, it's going to be easy to resell this thing, so just buy instead of rent, and so that's what we did. And so people won't understand this, right? I mean, I've made decisions like this as an adult before, and I know not everyone will understand this, and they'll think that I'm crazy. But we made a commitment to God that we would move by the end of August to live where he was calling us to live. And that meant that we believed that our house would sell by then. Right?
Okay.
We made the decision that we would move by this time, whether the house sells or not. And the house hadn't sold yet. We had a few people look at it, had somebody put a contract on it, but they couldn't get financing, and so it fell through. And so we're like, okay, it's in motion, it's happening, it's going to sell. Thankfully, we're moving close to home. Athens is close to home, so my parents said, hey, you can live in our house for as long as you need to until that house sells. Thinking as long as you need to is a couple months,
right,
maybe, at the most, right? And then we would just drive up, take care of the sale of the house, and then we'd have that, we'd have that freedom to purchase a house here or rent or whatever we wanted to do here. So we get here, and we moved on August 31st, and of August 31st of 2001, and we are just getting started in life here, right? I mean, literally less than 2 weeks into our time here. September 11th happens, and so we're thinking about the country, those cities, those people on the plains, our own children. And also, what's going to happen in the back of our mind? What's going to happen to the housing market? Well, exactly what happened happened. No one looked at that house for 6 months. No one was. Everybody was concerned. I'm not buying a house right now.
Yes.
Right.
That actually, I recall that you saying it, but it's not something that sticks out in my mind.
Yes.
That everything kind of froze.
It was a
place.
time in our life. It was an entire year before we were able to sell that house. And it was a time in our lives where, people, we don't understand God and his ways. And so we get mad at him sometimes. And he understands that. Like he's not small.
Right, so he understands our fallacies.
Exactly. He's been here.
Yeah.
He understands.
Yeah,
it's
right.
tough, right? Things are tough. He just helps us to deal with it. He helps us to understand that his ways are not our ways and his thoughts are not our thoughts, and lean not on our own understanding, but in all of our ways trust him. And when you do that, then he's faithful. But it's hard to do that sometimes.
Yeah,
it's hard to do that. And I got angry. I got really angry at God during the year 2001 for a few months. And I remember going for a couple drives just by myself. I went for a drive one time. And it's weird to think about this now, but I took off in the morning and started driving on Route 7. And I told April, like I said, I'm going to go for a drive and I'll let you know, like, 'cause she went to work and everything. My mom, I left the kids with my mom, and I was just praying. I was just praying, and it was like, have you ever seen the movie The Apostle with Robert De Niro?
I don't think so.
It's a pretty good movie, actually. Just a really shady, crappy preacher. They call him the Apostle.
Does he heal people?
Yeah,
I think
Word of Faith preachers,
yeah.
But there's a scene where he's having to deal with all the stuff that he stuff that he feels guilty about, but also stuff that he feels his life's falling apart, right? And obviously it's because of his own choices, but also he's angry with God, and so he goes up to this room in his parents' house where he used to pray all the time. He's like, "This is where you and I used to meet, God," and the scene is really intense, where he's having an argument with God, he's wrestling with God, right? And there was a guy in the Bible that did that.
Yeah.
And, but that's what I was doing.
Remember his name?
What's that?
You remember his name?
Jacob.
That's right.
Your son.
Yep.
And I wrestled with him all the way down Route 7 until I got to Cincinnati. I took the river road all the way to Cincinnati.
Wow.
Yeah. And like, well, do I turn around and go back home? mean, I was just like, God, I don't understand what you're doing. I don't understand what you're doing. Like, I wasn't running away from life. I was just driving.
Sure.
Like, I do a lot of, I mean, I think a lot when I drive and listen.
Yeah,
you know.
absolutely.
And so that's just, it was just a 3.5 hour, 4 hour. I mean, it took a longer time to get there on that route. But it was just prayer. It was just, help me to understand what you're doing. And it was actually ended up being a pretty cool thing. Because I'm in Cincinnati, I'm in the Norwood area, and I go down into this looks like a bad neighborhood area, and there's this big Catholic church, and like a convent and everything. And I had read an article about a vineyard pastor who had bought that campus, that Catholic campus it had been sold, and he planted a vineyard church there. And so I walked in, introduced myself. His name's Kevin Rains, and he said, we use this convent. We have rooms here. And he said, if you need to spend the night here in Cincinnati and just deal with God. I mean, you know, he said, we'll pray with you. We'll stay here. I called April as soon as I got there. I'm like, hey, I'm in Cincinnati. She's like, what? I said, yeah. I said, she goes, I knew you were going for a drive, but I didn't know you were going that far. I said, well, yeah. I said, and I said, I'll be back later. And she said, we may as well spend the night. I said, well, it's funny you say that because I met these people, and she's like, yeah, it sounds like you should probably spend the night. And it became a friendship. It was pretty cool.
Really
I went to a
awesome.
Reds game. The Reds were in town, so I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna go to a Reds game.
That was a little sacrilege.
I love baseball. Yeah. But I was at the Reds game by myself. I bought tickets as high up as I could get them. I'm sitting up there by myself, and I could just continue the prayer, just continue talking, you know. And it was a cathartic moment because it was, you know, I realized I was very selfish because what was I upset about?
Yeah.
You know, I was upset because my prayer it wasn't that my house wasn't selling. I mean, that was a symptom of what was happening. You know, it was that we left our initial really good paying jobs and really, you know, comfortable jobs in St. Louis to follow this path of church planting and new ministry.
Sure.
You know, and ever since we started making these decisions, life had gotten worse and more questionable. And not only that, we added children to the mix, and I was angry about that. You know, I wanted to be a good father, and I didn't have a job, you know, and we did all this in the name of you're going to be faithful to us, right? If I'm faithful and I do what you ask me to do, you're going to be faithful to us. In my mind, I was like, you're not being faithful to me, you know. And that's the kind of prayer, right? That I was having, and it's because that's what I was feeling. And I learned through those kinds of moments. That was the big one, you know, that big truth. And that I was wrong. I was wrong. Whenever you have an argument with God, little spoiler alert, he has never lost.
Yeah.
He doesn't lose. You don't understand, but you're not correct. And you'll be reminded of that. And I needed that reminder. You know, that there were people in the world whose problems were much, much bigger than mine in that moment. Yeah. And what I have been called to do, this is what I was getting the sense that God was telling me, what I've been called to do, you're still going to do, Chris. You're still going to do. You're just going to do it in my time. It's not going to look like what you thought it was going to look like. See, I came from the mega church era, right? And I came from, you know, the church in St. Louis was a mega church, and it was growing into a mega church, and it's one of the reasons why we left. Everything we did was with church people, church. You know, it was church culture. Everything, like even the baseball team that I coached, we played on our church field. You know, things, and we were just like, you know, nothing against church culture. It's just that we that wasn't us. You know, we loved Jesus, and we were Christians, but we wanted to spread that word.
Sure.
You know, and we chose to leave to go to a church plant that had been planted like 5 years before to kind of learn and see how it was done, but it was a smaller model of the same thing in many ways, different style of things. And so I moved to Athens, made a commitment to move to Athens, made that move thinking I'm going to do the same thing that they did there.
Right.
And that's not it's just not what God wanted us to do. And it took a long time for us to realize that.
Yeah.
That the church that you plant is not going to look like what people see as church. And to this day, 23 years later, That's exactly what it is.
Yeah,
You've been there.
exactly,
I mean, we it's just people. And
Yeah,
it's just ministry and people. We have no debt. We don't pay for anything. I mean,
I once called it a Church of Christ and haven't been invited back because you are so
because we're not a denomination
so
or a brotherhood or a franchise or anything like that. No, we're extra non-denominational.
Right.
No. Yeah. But
I think that
But that was just all aftermath of September 11th. Like that was one of the ways that, I mean, people's lives were changed because of this. And I don't know what like our church would look like had that not happened. Mm-hmm. Right? I don't know what my ministry and where I would be would look like. I mean, had that not I mean, God uses tragedy, world tragedy, to accomplish his purpose in incredible ways.
Sure.
And we don't,
yeah, absolutely.
We don't ever see it up front. Mm-hmm. Soren Kierkegaard, great theologian, philosopher, my favorite one to quote says, "We live life forward and we define it backward." You just got to live life forward because you can't figure out what's happening in front of you. But a lot of times you'll keep moving forward and then you look back. You look back and you see 10 years ago, oh, this is how the puzzle pieces fit together. This is what God did all.
Yeah, and what does that mean? To live life forward. I think that's the big question. And in terms, I don't think you're being selfish. You may have come to that, and come to peace with that, and found a lot of value in that, in owning that and saying I was selfish. You were a young husband and father, and you had responsibilities, and there was pressure on you, and regardless of what you were angry at in a given moment, that was impact. The things that was going on in the world was impacting that. And I think we talked about this the other day, that we have God-given responsibilities to take care of the things that he blesses us with. I think the fact that you spent essentially 24 hours praying, that's living it forward, and that's what God asks us to do, and being faithful to Him. It's like you said, He understands the grief that we experience. He understands the difficulties that this life presents to us, and He's going to understand when that frustration, overcomes our human abilities, because we're imperfect. And that's why the salvation plan was created. But through all that, I've always, people have come to me over time and said, "I think God wants me to do this. Mm-hmm. What do you think?" I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what God wants you to do. And in terms of, move from Toledo to mm-hmm. Athens County, or to become a preacher, or to become in other people's perspective, to be a baseball coach, or to go be a teacher. God wants me to be a teacher. I'm like, I don't know if He wants you to be a teacher. I can't tell you that, but I know this. I know that I know He wants you to stay faithful to Him, regardless of where you go and what you do. Yeah. And that's the walk. That's the journey. And He's going to use however He uses you. The vision, the end game. Whatever the result. It doesn't belong to us. It belongs to Him. All we have to do is stay faithful. And to me, that's living it forward.
Sometimes we think about the fifth and sixth step, and all He wants you to do is take the first one.
Just do your job.
Take one. Just do your job. Yeah. I had kids coming up to me in my youth ministry in St. Louis fretting about where they should go to college. Right?
Yes.
Like, I know God's called me to do this. Right. I know God's called me to do this.
In the military,
but which college does He want me to go to? It's like, man, sometimes I think God leaves it up to you. Yeah. Right? Like, you got the answer. You know what He's called you to be. That's what He's calling. Like, He's calling you to pursue this as a career. And you know that? Oh, yeah, I know that. I'm pretty confident about that. Well, then maybe He's like, pick a college.
Yes.
Pick somewhere, right? Like, you don't have to fret about every little thing, you know, that sometimes it's just about, being faithful wherever you are, wherever your feet are planted, be faithful in that place.
Yes. Good word, Coach. Good word. Yeah, that's it. Wherever you are.
Yeah.
I think that's what He wants from us. Yeah. Really. And we do get hung up on things like that.
We do. And it's debilitating. It will keep you from progressing in life if you worry about all of those little things. God does provide freedom, which he calls discernment.
Yes.
In people, the ability to be able to discern.
And you said at the beginning of that story that, if we're faithful to him, he's faithful to us. And I would say, you look back on that moment in time that you had and the stress that you felt and, the anger and just the frustration and, was he faithful to you?
100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, but I mean, there's going to be hard times.
Yeah.
There's going to be more of those frustrations and more of those challenges and grief. I remember that was coincides. Chassie and I, when we decided to try to start having kids, we had a lot of trouble, and we actually had a miscarriage when a couple years before Jake was born. But it was there. We were going to the doctor, and what do we do? How do we handle it? And I'm like, it was a period of time where we had stopped attending church. Life got in the way, and we were busy going to college and had jobs and things like that. We were growing up, and we didn't manage it well. And that was the thing. I said, I think we need to go back to church, and not because I think going back to church is going to miraculously give us a son.
Yeah.
It's not going to generate conception.
Yeah, that's a fallacy too. That's what a lot of people use. Yeah.
Right. No, I didn't think that.
A transactional relationship between God.
Right. No,
God,
I didn't think
that. If I do this,
at all.
God will give me this.
Yeah. What my thought was, we need to go back to church because whatever we're going to deal with over the next 2 to 3 years, trying to decide, or trying to have a child, and ultimately, just if we can't, deciding if we shouldn't, when we stop, whatever we were going to be faced with.
Yeah,
we needed that relationship with God, and that got us back into the church, and we've stayed there ever since, and he's
awesome.
a period of heartache and uncertainty, and just not something that in life, when you're growing up, that you don't even consider as something that would impact you, and just being, having a feeling of this just really stinks and it's not fair, and you don't understand why. Carried us through that.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the day, has granted me and blessed me with so many more issues as a parent.
Let me ask you this. Yeah, that's true. Did that influence why you named your first son Jacob? The wrestling thing.
Oh yeah, for me,
the struggle that it took you and Chassie to finally have that first child.
Oh, you know what? No, it didn't. No, it didn't.
That'd have been a good thing. That'd have been a good time for you to go, well, yeah, of course.
No, it didn't. It didn't. But I love that story.
The fact that it happened.
Yeah, and you know what?
Without even thinking about it.
I did. I guess that is exactly kind of what happened, is because
his name has meaning.
Yeah, for sure. I love that, just the story of Jacob and how he that the confusion and the misinterpretation of what that means, that because some people out there will be like, oh, God's limited Jacob out wrestled him, but that's not, obviously that's not what happened. But it was a name that we talked about, and I was drawn to it because, well, this is pretty cool. It's a name in the Bible, and I like this story, and so. But no, it wasn't. We didn't take that in consideration. I think we went through that, and once we found out. Yeah, and the pregnancy was scary as well. There's all kinds of things that happened during the pregnancy.
Pregnancy is scary anyway.
You're darn right it is, especially for the dad.
Yeah. Uh-oh.
Now every woman is going to
not
see
just your own woman. Everyone.
I used to tell people that. Like, oh man, I don't know. I was so tired after Jake was born.
For those of you that are only listening and not watching the podcast, that is Pat Martin's voice. Hey, I'm proud of you, though, because you did not name your second child Esau.
That's true.
And if you don't know why that's funny, look it up and read the story of Jacob and Esau. Those of you that don't know the story of Jacob and Esau.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and what the Bible says about Jacob and Esau in the book of Romans, even Romans
Yeah.
chapter 11. Yeah.
Then I didn't.
But Genesis is the real story. I mean, the big story. If you go
Right,
back and
right,
read that, go
yeah.
back and read that.
But no, we didn't. That wasn't it. But I mean, that's why I like the character of Jacob in the Bible so much,
Oh,
is
yeah.
because of that story.
Yeah.
And it did I like that name because of that.
Yeah. And it doesn't matter who you name your kids after in the Bible. You're going to find good and bad about those people.
Sure.
Right?
Well, and yeah.
I mean,
Jeremiah
so
was a prophet.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
liked. Obviously, I had a really good friend named
weeping prophet, cried a little bit. Right?
Yeah, right.
But God spoke through him, and yeah.
My buddy Jeremiah Bentley, good friend of his.
Yeah.
It was like there's
Yeah.
ties to that, and I like the fact that we could call him Maya, even though we hadn't decided if we were going to do that.
Yeah.
Until
Siri
we just
doesn't
started
like that
doing it.
though. You know, does your Siri spell Maya correctly? MIAH.
Oh, I don't know.
When you-
I
do you
hardly ever
speak
used
to speak text?
to text. Yeah.
Yeah, it's always
MYI.
Yeah.
MYA.
MYA.
That's
Maya.
a lot of people
Yeah.
do, and I just assume like if I don't hear it from after people do it for a while, I get this.
Yeah.
It's a autofill or an autocorrect or whatever. There's some
Yeah,
people I just
it's funny. It
assume.
eventually will change it. Like Kaylee. Now when I say Kaylee,
Yeah.
my daughter Kaylee, into my speak text, it'll spell her name correctly.
Oh, but it never used to.
Kaylee. No, it used to be Kailee.
Oh.
And so I would be like, I spelled my own daughter's name wrong. Well, no, I didn't. Siri did. But I changed it enough that now it recognizes it,
Yeah.
which is a little scary in and of itself, but it's part of technology.
Yeah.
Listen, I enjoy technology for these podcasts because we crank these things out. I mean, people see it. I've had people say, "Man, that video stuff is pretty impressive, especially those TikToks where there's transposing. Like you can
I
actually
don't think
see."
it's as easy as what you say it is, but
But AI helps a lot with those. I mean, you have to clean it up a little bit and
Exactly.
change some words and all that. Clean up your language and all that. But no. But no, I mean, truth is the tools that are out there to use today, it's amazing. Like I'm not anti-technology by any means, but
it is amazing. You can with AI, with ChatGPT, you can obviously you can just ask ChatGPT to give you a baseball practice plan. But you can
be specific with it too.
Well, you can have repositories where you save data. So you save exercises, you save
Yeah.
drills, you save
Yeah.
periods, and ChatGPT will use that repository. Those repositories
to build upon
to
it.
build it. Yes, so you can teach it to
You and I-
think like you.
You're going to have to show me some more of that.
Well, I've
'Cause I
never-
use ChatGPT a little bit.
Oh yeah, I do
use
too.
it a little bit.
Yeah, I do.
One of
once
my
in
baseball players used it this past summer
a- oh
to build a workout program for
yeah.
himself.
Yeah, absolutely.
He basically told it, I'm a baseball player. I'm a catcher. This is what I want. These are my goals. Make me a workout program. And he said, I was just curious to see what it did. He sent it to me.
Yep.
And I looked through that thing. I went, that's pretty close to what we would give you.
Yeah,
to do.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. It's scary.
Yeah, it is.
But it's really neat.
Yeah.
Just think about because the way that it can learn and stuff like that, and you're not too far from people
Oh, yeah.
worried about the Terminator experience. So,
Right. I took a photo that we took outside of the convo. Somebody took of Kaylee and when she graduated. So it was our whole family. Like Brock was holding Palmer. Palmer was a baby, and Allie standing beside her, and then me and April and Kaylee, and she's in her graduation gown here. And I took that photo, just started because I had seen I had gotten an AI tool through, I don't know if it was Adobe Photoshop or something. We get Adobe products for free here at OU or at Scripps. And so I just want to play around with it just for the fun of it. And so I like colored over like my like I was wearing like a suit or a shirt and tie, I colored over it and then I just typed in there, put me in a Dallas Cowboys uniform or something like that. And clicked it, and you could see it working.
Is that right?
It did it, and I did it for every single. I like make Allie a hippie, and it was funny. The picture was hilarious. Like I put like April in jeans and a flannel, and she was wearing a dress. It's bizarre, man. It's pretty cool. I mean, if you look at it close enough, you're like, that's obviously fake, but
Sure.
but it's close enough to where
Well, you know, you want like you familiar with Back to the Future? I know
Yeah.
you're not a big movie.
No, those are 80s movies.
Okay,
I used to watch those.
Well, you know the photo.
Marty McFly.
I always wondered how they made
yeah,
the
the
people
photo.
disappear on the photo. Like,
Yeah.
I thought that was so cool.
That's right.
Growing up, and I don't know if they have
Because he went back in the future and they weren't there yet. They weren't born.
well, he kept
That's the
he
whole reason why.
kept doing things that was
Yeah,
causing
he
them.
was erasing
Yes.
history.
Right. Yeah.
Which we still try to do that today. Erase
Yeah.
history. That's the world that we live in
true.
today. That's our society,
We
our
didn't,
culture.
we didn't learn from Marty.
Well, that's exactly right.
There's another movie.
Yeah,
called
you
The
erase
Butterfly.
history, you're going to repeat it. There's
Well, that's true.
there's no chance that
Ooh,
you're not going to
that's-
repeat it. That's the biggest problem with like listen.
actually a great
I'm with you.
argument.
I can't stand the fact that our history has some ugly parts on it, right? Racist aspects to it. But you take down those statues. Some statues are put there to scare you, to remind you of
Yeah.
the horrifying things that you did.
Yeah, I would
It's not
say-
honoring those people. It's reminding you this was a terrible time, and if you forget about it, it's going to happen again
Yeah. Yeah. and I mean,
because of sin.
you look through the Bible.
I mean,
you look
that's
through
why.
the Bible. You see a lot of
Oh,
evil people.
Yeah.
That are very instrumental in the
Yeah.
delivery of what we have today. And in
Exactly.
the Scripture.
Oh,
know.
yeah.
A lot of
and you s-
cogs to that.
And
that
here's the
plan.
funny thing: we can read the Bible and we read a story about an evil dictator or an evil leader, and then God destroys that country, or and He rebuilds, and you're like, okay, cool, they'll learn from that, and it won't happen again. And then years later, you see it again. Well, for us, it's just a few pages, and we read it, and we're like, how stupid are these people, right?
Right.
Well, that was a couple hundred years
Right.
also in between those few pages.
Yep.
The reason they're stupid is because they forgot about the history,
Yeah.
and they just regurgitated the same.
Yeah, there's a lot of
sentence over and over again.
correlation between the mistakes of the Israelites and how we behave today as Christians.
There it
So watch that. That's a pitfall for a lot of us. We need to keep our guard up for that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, should we start our outro music?
How long have we been?
It's been a
gone?
different.
Oh, it's been an hour.
It's been a different.
Yeah, a little different.
feel
I don't know that we. I think. Man, I didn't know it would go that way, but the staying faithful, through rough times is. I think that's a perfect way to sum it up. And there's from a sports perspective, there's always going to be difficult times. I know there's kids right now that are hurt and dealing with injuries that they'd rather not be dealing with. There's teams that aren't performing the way that they would like to be performing, and how do you get through those difficult times, because it is tough, especially if you're a competitor and not winning, or you want to be out there on the field with your friends or your team, and you can't do it, and it's very frustrating and hard. And I think every day you need that that safety net, that foundation to pull you through those things.
Yeah.
And for me, and I know for you, and for a lot of people, that foundation is God and the relationship we have with Jesus Christ, and that's what He wants from us. And the hard times are just opportunities for us to give back and show our love for all the blessings that He gives to us. So bad time in our history, but
Yeah.
a lot of great things came from it.
Yeah, it was. And that's the thing that we have to remember in the middle of those really difficult times is not everybody believes it, but there is a sovereign God. And
I don't know how you can't believe it.
I don't know how you can get through those
it's
things.
very lonely, and life becomes very, very much more difficult.
Yeah.
If you don't have that to fall back on, so you better find something. You better find something, and that's the message that I give my players a lot of times is
find something that's eternal.
yeah, find something that's
I like
greater than
saying
this
that.
world.
I like saying that because I know there's only one place to get that.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you search for it, that's my. If they search for it, they'll find it, and But
I'm gonna pray that you come back around to
yeah,
what
good
that
word,
is.
good word, Coach.